Hello.
There he is!
Hi, friend. How are you, Tiro?
In the flesh. Holy cow.
I know. You have a
Oh,
better V-neck than I do.
oh well.
I need to get to your level. Working on it.
Someday you'll be like me.
And I can only hope, truly.
Hello, my friends.
How are you?
Good. It's been quite some time, hasn't it?
Way too much. Too
Yeah.
much.
I love the blue, by the way.
Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to get back to my natural hair color, You know? It was really pissing me off. Um, so I'm so glad. I mean, now that you're letting your grays go, that's a surefire way to start dyeing yourself. I'm just saying. If you want to do fun colors, you've got the platform for it
I
now.
do. I kind of do. See, like that one right there.
Yes. If
That.
you were to dye your hair crazy color like tomorrow, what would you do?
Probably a purple. I think a
That's
purple.
much.
So
That's
I'll tell you the story about my favorite color. That's a Sophie story, but we're gonna get into this, and then afterwards I'll tell you the story. I'll share that.
okay. I don't do tangents, so that's weird.
Not at all. Welcome to Changed for the Better: The Power of Arts in Education, episode 20.
I'm Stacy Tiro, a high school performing arts teacher for over 25 years. I've taught a lot of amazing people. Now that so many of my students are adults, they'll teach me how, through the lessons in my classroom, they have been changed for the better.
Oh, wow.
Episode 20.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's big doings.
I know. And actually, side note, my episode 19 I'm doing tomorrow, but I wanted you to be episode 20. So
Oh, I'm honored. I'm thrilled. Thank you.
I think that was very appropriate. So as a performing arts educator in both a high needs public high school with low resources, I wind up training kids from the ground up. They come in with no experience in the theater. Their music experience is really limited. Some have like a natural bit of talent that just needs to be finessed. And some kids just like explode out of the gate. This guy was one of those kids. Made my life really easy for a while. He walked into the halls of Spring Valley, already an accomplished young musician. I came to learn that he played the clarinet quite well. And he also came from a family of musicians, so it really wasn't a far stretch, for him. He quickly turned into a theater kid when he auditioned for his first fall play as a freshman, The Good Doctor, right? That was The Good
Yeah.
Doctor? Yeah.
Yeah.
He played the son.
Still time for happiness. I don't know why I still remember. Those 16 bars will be etched into my brain for the rest of my life. Yeah.
So from that point forward, he was like on his path to like becoming a star. He was just like on that road. And so for the 4 years that he was with me, he performed all sorts of roles, mostly leading ones. Once I got like the idea, I was like, oh, this kid has talent. Let's use that. I'm very opportunistic when it comes to that. He won a regional theater award, which is it was like a kind of a high school Tony Award. Now they call it the Metropolitan High School Theater Awards. I think then it was the Helen Hayes Awards before the Helen Hayes organization like put the kibosh on that. That was for outstanding dance performance. He turned into a dancer as Bobby Child in Crazy for You.
Before taking your tap classes.
That's right. I think that was like the leap into I want to take tap and really learn how to do this.
Yeah. And you were like, well, I only teach advanced. Come on in. You're going to drown and it'll be fine.
That's right. And you were fine.
And I drowned and I was fine.
That's right.
So.
That's right. He came up for air and was like, oh, I can do this. And then in his senior year, he played Pippin, title role, alongside my older daughter's stage debut at 7 years old. She played Thea. And then she won that same regional award for outstanding child actor, but I digress. Little shameless plug there.
She just turned 20
20. Yeah.
for episode 20. I mean, the stars.
It's
Shining.
serendipitous. So in those 4 years, he figured out that musical theater was his calling. That was like his bag. So much so that upon high school graduation in 2010, he went off to the prestigious Hart School in Hartford, Connecticut, and he earned a BFA in musical theater over that next 4 years. And then from there, he like exploded out and he traveled all over the country and he performed. He was like the typical sort of triple threat. And a triple threat, for those of you who don't know, is like the actor, the singer, the dancer extraordinaire. You got it all. There's the whole package. Then he eventually got the credentials to join Actors Equity, which is like the union, the big union that all the Broadway performers are part of. And he spent the better part of 10 years or so sort of living that actor life. And that, of course, it's a tough life. It's not an easy life. It's not easy on the physical body. It's not easy on the mental spirit. So of late, as he's turned 30.
I know.
Pain.
I know.
So he's going through his transitional period, kind of going into that next decade of adulting. He's now found his home in Washington, D.C. And he's using those stellar performing and interpersonal skills in the sort of more corporate realm. And so he gives Segway tours in the National Mall, which honestly, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Come on down. I give it a tour.
And then he hosts events for teambuilding.com. So we're going to move this forward. So I'm going to now not talk so much. And we're going to start with our first question, which is super easy, which is, what is your name, the year you graduated? I already said it. And then just tell me a little bit more about what you do now.
My name is Alex Domini. I graduated at Spring Valley High School in 2010, which is wild. And now what I basically do for a living is cry in my living room and have existential crises 4 times a week. And we live our life. I was excited to like do this because I think a lot of people do interviews when they're like either accomplished or they're like on the other side of a chapter or whatever. And I'm not. I'm right smack dab in the middle of it. And you know what? Here we are. And what I'm getting much better at is learning to be okay with the middle and being okay with the transitions and the ease of that.
That's so important, because between, raising our kids to like achieve and strive and be the best and all that, and then social media, like reinforcing those expectations, I think a lot of kids find themselves, and young adults find themselves in this really uncomfortable space that they really don't know what to do with themselves.
Oh, it's disgusting. I mean, like we shame average, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no, if you're average, you're no one, you're pathetic, how could you?
Yeah.
But in the reality, the vast majority of us are average, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You could be average and have a very fulfilling life.
Yeah.
We should honestly keep a tally of how many musical theater references I make during this interview, but truly, patch in the roof, pitch in the hay is not my idea of a perfect day. When you're extraordinary, you got to do extraordinary things, right? What is that teaching kids?
Right.
Because if it's not good enough for Pippin, then why should it be good enough for me? So the inverse of everything is always true too. So if we're saying, I'm alluding to this extraordinary life, the inverse is true too. Anything less than that is not good.
Right.
And that's something that's been instilled in me for 30 years, and I'm just now learning how to unlearn that.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit dangerous, because then you have a lot, that you have all these young people sort of trying to almost overstep it. It's not that people can't achieve greatness, but things happen in stages and phases, and very scant few people like shoot up to the top and stay there. Like, think, you got like sort of your Beyoncés of the world, right? however they got there, that was their path. But there's only one Beyonce.
Greatness is defined by you and your person and your foundation, and not by it. Once greatness is defined externally, that's where neuroses happen. That's where mental illness happens, because then that's when you go into one of your trauma responses of, well, I can't be as excellent as I want to be, so I'm just going to freeze and not do anything.
Yeah.
Or I'm not as good as I want to be, so I'm going to fight back and I'm going to talk about, whomever, or I'm going to go, oh, well, that casting director, they don't know me. They are always awful. Or you're going to fawn and you're going to go, I'll do whatever this person needs in order to be this person. That's when we enter into trauma responses, instead of just being secure in ourselves of like, I achieved greatness today with my level of where I'm at, and that is okay for me. And I'm going to be okay. And tomorrow I can go elsewhere and I can be different.
And see what else I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do that, like that mental inventory of like, okay, does getting on that stage excite me anymore? Why does it excite me? How does it excite me? Who is getting excited? Is it 30-year-old Alex or is it 15-year-old Alex? Like, who's running this show? And I think that those things are very, very important.
Well,
hard skills. Those are hard skills to learn.
They are. And I have said many, many times on this platform, therapy is good. Therapy is good. There's nothing wrong with a good therapist, like helping you work that stuff out.
I can't believe I went through my 20s without regularly seeing a therapist. I just like who let that happen?
Right.
Who let that happen? Like
did I survive?
I went to so many mentors and teachers and all these different classes, and no one said to me like, maybe some therapy.
Yeah.
no one ever said that. And I'm just like, why? Now like I'm like 2 years deep into it. I'm like, girl, I really could have used this when I was 24. Oh man, I don't know about would be in a much different place.
Yes. You alluded to 15-year-old Alex, which is the guy that I remember. And so this is what I want you to do. Using your adult brain, your 30-year-old adult brain, describe your adolescent self.
Oh my God. Hyper vigilant, pull up his ass, real, just obnoxiously enthusiastic. I mean, just like not grounded whatsoever in reality. I think about this a lot of like, I'm like, how young did I show off anxious symptoms? And I realized like as young as 5, I was like at my kindergarten teacher, like freaking out if I didn't get an assignment right. Because if I wasn't first and I didn't get 100, then I would freak out. Problem was that didn't happen very often. So when I think of 15-year-old Alex, I just want to like tell him to exhale and it'll be okay. And like, just have some humble pie and understand that like where you're at is great. And also know that the people who you're about to surround yourself with have more training, more money, more resources, more network connections than you could ever dream of. So you might as well just chill.
So what was something that happened in the dance studio experience at Spring Valley, or the thespian student experience at Spring Valley, that helped you to manage or regulate that adolescent madness, anxiety?
I mean, I think the dance studio was a really, really safe space. I mean, I think that like you were the first person to say like, to just kind of give me a realistic approach of what it meant. Like, hey, you've got big dreams and this is exciting, but it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z in order to happen. I was like, yes, let's do it. Which was exciting. And that's exciting for a teacher to see. And that's exciting for me to latch onto. I do wish someone said why. Why are we so hell-bent on this? But what are you like? What are you gonna do? You see a teenager with such enthusiasm for something, and you're like, God, yeah, let's do it. And then, oh, he can do the thing. There's some talent there. There's, there not only is there talent, but there's like some real dedication to it. That's exciting.
Sure.
And so I think the dance studio is a real safe space for me to live out my full ambitions and be fully enthusiastic, I was met with real supportive realism. I want you to achieve this. It requires X, Y, and Z. And I was like, amazing. I'm so glad that someone gave me a rubric. Game on. Let's do it.
Game on. Well, that's good. And actually that's some pretty good feedback. There's so much more awareness about the mental health check-ins that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly pre-pandemic, it wasn't as much of a thing, the mindfulness.
That wasn't a read at all. And I really hope that it doesn't come off that way.
No, but still, and it's okay, because part of this, as I'm like entering the next, 5 years or so of the towards the end of my career, is what else can I do? Can I consider as I'm presenting things to kids that's going to really help them manage themselves in my classroom, in their lives, and carry it forward. So that's like all sort of part and parcel of this.
And that's so admirable. I mean, how many, fortunately, I don't think that this is true of a lot of the teachers who teach at East Ramapo, but like, how many teachers do we know are like, 7 more years? Now, I don't care about these kids. 7 more years, you know what I mean? And like, we know that mentality. I've seen it myself. It's really exciting to see teachers like you that are still in this growth mindset of like, okay, there's new information. What do we do with this? How do I create more? I would have never asked that question myself. And that's the first person who needs to be asking it is me.
Right.
Why am I so hell-bent on this? Why is this like the most hyper-vigilant thing? Like, if I do not make it on Broadway, I am a bad person.
Well,
like,
at 15, adolescents don't have that built in.
Oh, no. It's not on the back of the head. It's right here. Yeah. That, that's the reptilian brain. This is the neofrontal cortex. Yeah. We don't have that.
No.
Not fully developed.
No, not even close. Not even close. And that's what's so fascinating about these conversations, is that everything sort of tracks. I was this sort of madness in my adolescence, and now people are saying over and over, you're going to be okay. Like, I would tell myself, you're going to be okay. Just sit back, relax a little bit. Like, that's just the normal thing for a 20-something, 30-something, 40-something to be able to go back and say, because we do have the fairly well-developed brains.
And it's also a learned skill, right? Like, I'm sure you have plenty of contemporaries of yours. I'll never forget this. This was honestly one of the best things you've ever said to me, and it still rings true to this day. You said it does not go above high school. People do not go above high school. The clicks, the dynamics, it does not go above high school. And you right, girl. You right. I joined a kickball league. These girls, what? This guy literally walked in. He walked into the kickball team and he went, oh yeah, I'm the bitch. Like, we're gonna find stuff from them. I'm like, what story is this? What narrative are you telling about yourself? I don't want anything to do with you now.
Who do you think we are? We're just kicking a ball.
Literally, I was like, we are a bunch of grown, predominantly cis gay men kicking a ball that we all paid to do, right? Like, what? Who cares?
By the way, I would love to join a kickball league.
Oh, it's great.
It sounds like so much fun.
That's honestly, building community has been one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And that's been super, super easy to do in DC. That hasn't been as easy in New York. In New York, I had to keep myself at this poverty level in order to audition the way that I wanted to. Or just like my mental state and where I'm at now. DC offers so much community. It is the most LGBT friendly city in the entire country. Isn't it wild? And so there are so many opportunities for community building and friend gathering and networking that no one's above it here, and it's nice.
That's great. So what are some of the other lessons that you learned in the studio that you either think about or that you use today?
God, in the studio, I really learned how to play and be imaginative and just get really, really excited for creation and moving my body. And I think professional theater does not allow for that, especially unfortunately at the level that I kind of peaked at. When you get to higher levels, there is more creativity involved and there is more play involved. I just never reached those heights. For where I got, it was very much so, okay, we have 3 weeks, like park and bark on 6. Then you move over here. Yeah, you have to move over there. The special only works from this side. Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't fixed the other special. So, it's one of those things. So you don't really get as much creativity. And I wish that I had the confidence to bring that play into audition rooms the way that I could have, and that I could have given myself more permission to. I look forward to now using that play in other settings and other spheres.
That's my life, is just like we walk in the studio and there's an agenda, like there's things that I need to do, but I find that there's so much stuff, over us with admin, district, all that. I need to walk into that safe space that you're talking, because it's my safe space too. And just like, can we leave everything at the door and let's just do this. Let's just play and roll around the floor and forget about all the stuff that's bothering us.
Yeah, and I think that that's like what makes you such a great community leader, because it really is a community that you're creating. It's not just a safe space, it's a community of shared values and interests. And when everyone agrees to these said values and interests, that's where real magic happens.
I want to make magic. Sorry, gotta put that one.
The other one.
The other one. So how have you changed since you graduated high school?
My hairline sucks. Weight management, not great. No, I mean, like, since high school, I think I've done a better job. I mean, life forced me to take my blinders off, right? What happens when you're so hyper vigilant and you have this, what people don't talk about, there people love to glorify tunnel vision, where people just are like, yeah, she was so focused and she was so driven to get the job done. But what happens is you're leaving a lot of rubble behind you, and you don't realize the damage that's done until you take those blindfolds off. And so a lot of people don't. That's what survival mode is. And you see firsthand every day students who are stuck in survival mode thanks to systemic oppression, racism, capitalism, all these systems that are in place that force people to stay in survival mode. And it takes a lot of effort and energy to force them out and look at the rubble around and go, okay, we did some damage, but I am still good. And practicing that skill is probably the biggest one that I am cultivating now. I'm really not great at it. Oh man, the shame spirals I've gone through this month alone, girl. And cultivating a sense of self, cultivating a real sense of, my foundation is loving kindness. My foundation is generosity. My foundation is compassion towards my fellow beings. If I misalign from that, that is my behavior speaking, not my soul, not my spirit. Behavior is changeable. I can alter behavior, but I am okay. I am going to be okay in my inner self. And reminding myself of that, cultivating that, practicing that is honestly the only work that's worth doing.
So what would you, your adult self, tell young Alex to help ease the way?
Dye your hair. It sounds stupid, but truly, dye your hair. Be silly, be dumb, because I was so hypervigilant and I was just like, in order to get to Broadway, I must do X, Y, and Z. And if those things do not happen, if I stray away from the plan, then this will not happen. Well, guess what? You can never stray away from the plan and it can never happen. And at the same time, you can have a girlfriend who is just the most wildest of wild child, has the worst behavior in the world, does all of the drugs under the sun, and she's on 3 Broadway shows. That's not fair. You need to figure out what works for you, and what works for one person doesn't work for the other. The only rule is there are no rules. You know?
We know that. We know that. What is something that you're grappling with now?
Literally everything I'm preaching.
Yeah. Practice what you preach.
And I try. I mean, practice is a great, great term for it because I can sit here and be like, I am my sense of self. I am okay. I'm doing all the things. But let me tell you, if we did this 2 weeks ago, I would be like, I'm no one. What am I doing with my life? Oh God, who am I? You know, like we all have those
Yeah.
days. And I think it's just about I just grapple with, okay, I have the tools. Which one do I need to use today? Which one is the right one? Being kinder to my mental health when my body is not working out right. You know what I mean? It's like, huh, I haven't eaten in 6 hours. Maybe I shouldn't believe these thoughts. Or, oh wow, I haven't hugged someone in 3 days. Maybe I shouldn't believe these thoughts on loneliness. Maybe I just need to be with someone and hug them.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the recent interviews that I did with Sophia Poe is she's a couple years after you. She offered this thing to ask your future self for a hug. And then your future self literally gives it to your current self. And she's like, I can't explain it, but it works. And just sitting there with that hug from your future self. Sometimes you just need a hug from somebody. And if you're it, you got to give the love to yourself. What do you miss about your high school self? And then tell me also one thing that you think has gotten better.
I do miss the lightheartedness. I think that when the enthusiasm didn't go to obnoxious and it went towards endearing, I really admired about that part of myself. When it was, oh my God, there's a new tap move that I've never tried before. Wait, teach it to me. Like that hunger for knowledge, and that hunger for, I want to learn everything I can about this exact topic. I really do admire that part of myself. And there are times where I still keep it. When I had to learn my tour spiel for the Segway tours, I mean, I had to learn a lot about American history and I learned a lot about, all these different monuments and memorials that are out throughout DC. And I realized just how much of an academic I am and how nerdy I still can be and all that kind of stuff. So it's really been, I'm able to keep some of that enthusiasm for sure.
We were in Philadelphia. We did like a long weekend. There's just a little side note. And we went to Congress Hall. And they had the tour guides, and like they were just this like wealth of information and knowledge. And they really seemed to love really talk, like whether they did or they didn't, they really seemed to love talking about it and doing that spiel and extracting all these things from American history. And it was so lovely to like see.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, more of a tangent. So that center, that town hall, the guy who was the architect for that was the architect for the Eisenhower executive offices, which are right next to the White House. And that was built in the 1850s. And Mark Twain thought the architect did such a bad job. He took out an op-ed in the Washington Post and said, this man is trash. The building is awful. It literally overshadows the White House. This man should never work another day for the American government. Lo and behold, they didn't pay him for his work on the Eisenhower executive office, and he died penniless.
Oh my God.
Yeah, girl.
I love these little tangents. We have more to talk about.
I know, but it's fun telling these stories. It's still storytelling, right? It's still history. It's still using acting. It's still like engaging viewers.
Well, it takes the best parts of your experience and applying them directly to just this, other.
Yeah, and I think this was also a thing that I really struggled with when it came to acting, was like, wait a second, I like my personality. You're telling me I have to take on someone else's? So with a tour guide, I get to be myself, and I give the drunk history version of the Washington Monument. You know what I mean? Like, You know, the Washington Monument is literally the nastiest game of Jenga we have ever played as a country. And to this day is just a bad game of Jenga. Like, we are one bad earthquake away from the Washington Monument, just boom. Yeah.
Wow. So you'll never go into the Washington Monument.
Well, I'm going to do it once, pray to God, and then leave.
We're done.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that's gotten a little bit better or a lot better since you dyed your hair blue, since you turned an adult?
Since I've gotten my natural blue hair.
Mhm.
I would definitely say one of the things that I'm really, really proud of as of late is just my capacity to hold others' feelings. I think we forget that when we go into problem solving mode for someone, what that really translates to subconsciously is, I don't know how to care about your feelings, so we just have to solve them,
Hmm.
which is a little selfish and is not necessarily what the other person needs. And so I've done a really good job of leading with validating and offering compassion.
Mhm.
And I now have a much better awareness of who is capable of offering that to me and who isn't, and making sure that those people are in my closer sphere more than others.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's not necessarily like, what's been nice is like some people have really, really surprised me. You know, it's like my team building job, there are a lot of actors and stuff, but there are also a lot of like people who come from the corporate world and were in need of a job during the pandemic. And I've grown really, really close to some of just as many of those people as I have to my fellow creative types.
Listen, we can make connections almost anywhere as long as people are open to making those connections.
And what else in this lifetime is worth pursuing? You know what I mean? Like, what else is there?
Yeah.
Truly, like what, like I don't know. Like, do you feel really connected to buying that Mercedes? Because I don't. Do you feel really connected to helping capitalism? I don't. What else is there besides connecting to our fellow man?
My first 3 years out of college was the pursuit of theater, musical theater,
Mhm.
actor thing. And what I more quickly came to realize, and this all goes into that needing to play, needing to connect, needing to really be creative on my own terms, and feeling like I needed a little stability in my existence. The educational theater route was much more conducive to who I was. And when I had my first few experiences in it, I went, oh, there's something here that, and I have autonomy to kind of do what I want and make my own choices and do the shows that I feel like doing, not like maybe I'm auditioning for a show that like I don't really want, but I really need the job. You know, it was figuring out what your values are and what you really need to be okay as a person. And I think you're
Accepting them
now.
and
Yeah.
affirming them
Yeah.
that's a scary thing. You also married your high school sweetheart, which is very, very cute.
Yeah.
And that puts a lot of things into perspective too. You know? I was so gung-ho on whatever I hurt, be damned. I have to be on this Broadway stage. And then I realized, like, then I started to meet people who were on Broadway and I was like, oh, you're miserable. Wait a second. What's happening here? You know, don't get me wrong. There are also other people who are just living their best lives and are creating the art that they want to create and are financially stable and buying homes and all from playing make believe 8 times a week. What? That's dope. That's so awesome. And I get those urges all the time. I mean, I was in callbacks for something earlier this month where I was like, oh my God, how cool would this be? And that was the first time in my entire auditioning career that I had ever gone, I did my job and they're going to do theirs, but I did mine. And how exciting is that? I've never felt that before.
It wasn't the fret, that feeling of fret of, what if I don't get this job? It was like,
Right.
I did my piece and now I'm going to do my piece over there.
And I've been in finals for exciting things. I've been in callbacks for very prestigious places and all this kind of stuff. And I've worked at nice places too, don't get me wrong. But like, there is a level of sacrifice that has to happen and a level of consent to an abusive industry that, you know, at one point you just don't value it. The second that I started to be able to pay my own bills, my world was rocked, like truly rocked. Because I was like, oh, now that I'm not in survival mode anymore, do I need theater? Do I need New York? Do I need to be engaged? Do I need to do all these things? And so I decided to just implode it all at once. Because
you never do anything small.
Right. Why would I do that? Why would I look
Nothing
at
in stages. It's
right.
like...
Why would I do things in stages? No, the whole village gone. Just burn it.
Burn it down.
Just burn it down.
If you could give a piece of sage advice, or a couple pieces, whatever, to high school students now, what would it be?
Fail forward. That would be the first one. That means you learn one thing from being right. You learn 99 things from being wrong. You're so young. Collect the data from being wrong. Live your life. Be beholden to what you want to do, not what your friends want to do, not what, you know, society wants you to do. Be beholden to what you want to do, whatever that looks like. Mistakes are what build us up to create a better sense of a moral compass. That they're what allow us to go, actually, I don't need that. And I know this from my center. I would also say get off social media as soon as possible. What a dumpster fire for a place to grow. Oh man.
It's so bad for a growing brain.
Oh, just the most toxic, chaotic place for any brain, but especially one as malleable as an adolescent one. And I think acknowledging and accepting that your brain has not fully developed. There has to be some level of like, we have to believe the sky is blue, grass is green, and my brain is not fully developed. You know what I mean? Like it has to be that level of absolute truth and allowing yourself to like know that. Oh, maybe I think this thing, or maybe like my brain isn't developed. And that's okay.
We're actually wrapping this up. We're at question 10 now in episode 20.
Wow. 2010.
Yeah. 2010. Oh, see what you did there? This has nothing to do with high school. This is about you now in the present. What are 3 self-care practices that you do today that help you to center or to regulate yourself?
I meditate 4 or 5 times a week. I will text one of my best friends if I am overwhelmed. And I will journal. Yes.
Happy Pride, by the way.
Oh, thank you. As a proud ally, I'm really, really glad to help the LGBT community in any way that I can as an outsider. You know.
Sure. Way far outsider.
Yes.
Indeed. Happy Pride. Well, so we have come to the end of our Change for the Better, Power of Arts and Education with our good friend, Alexander Domini, with the natural blue hair. Well, thank you, my love, my friend.
Thank you.
For joining us for episode 20.
I'm so proud of you. That's so exciting.
It's cool. I like doing this. It's a lot of fun. I get to see people and like have extended conversations with people that I admire and that I love and that I haven't seen in a long time. So
you're making a hat where there wasn't a hat, right?
I'm a milliner.
Yeah, you know, you're doing what Sondheim wrote about.
Making a hat.
You said, look, I made a hat where there wasn't a hat.
I'm gonna keep making hats. All different kinds.